All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Sean Rogers here at Zyxel. And today we're doing our mostly monthly introduction to Nebula presentation. So today we're going to be going over sort of a high-level overview of Nebula, some of the features it offers, um, how the licensing works, things like that. So if you have questions as we're going through it today, use the question and answer part of the Zoom interface to send in those questions. And depending on the question, I may answer it right then and there, or I may hold off until the end of the presentation to answer the question, but do send those questions in. We also do periodically a different, more in-depth Nebula presentation where we talk about some of the best practices, tips and tricks, how you should be configuring things and setting up your customers and stuff. So if you do start playing around with Nebula, keep an eye out for that presentation, and I hope I see you on that one. So we'll start with just a little brief history on who Zyxel is. I like to throw this in here because oftentimes this introduction to Nebula webinar um, is something being watched by our new partners who have only recently signed up to our partner program and might not be that familiar with us. So Zyxel Networks has been in business now for over 30 years. We got started all the way back in 1989. Our US office has always been based out of the general Anaheim, Placentia area of California. So that's where our tech support is. That's where our sales team is, or most of our sales team. It's where our warehouse is, our operations, et cetera, et cetera. So when you do call into tech support, you are calling into our Anaheim location during business hours. And I just wanted to highlight here that Zyxel Networks, that's who I'm a part of. We are the guys who make and sell products that are aimed primarily at the VAR and MSP system integrator space. So switches, access point, firewalls, security, things like that. We do have a sister company known as Zyxel Communications, and we are the ones who are aimed primarily at the ISP space. And in North America, they primarily sell CPE products, specifically VDSL routers and TR069 and Plume managed gateway devices. We've got a number of other sister companies. A few of them are here on the slide. There's some more that aren't on there. The big one to highlight, though, is Mitristar. So Mitristar is our manufacturing company. They own and operate factories in Taiwan and China and make most of the products that we sell here. So now we'll start talking about Nebula. So we have a little bragging rights here. We are the first full stack cloud networking solution for SMB. Um, so first, we launched all the way back in 2016, Nebula, and I've just been improving it ever since. Back at that time, the only cloud solutions were either aimed at the enterprise space or were only access point solutions. So we were the only vendor basically to have a full stack, meaning that we supported different types or different classes of products, switches, access points, security gateways from the get-go back in 2016. Most of the other cloud-based solutions have come much after that were aimed at the SMB space. So basically the idea behind cloud management, if you're asking yourself, why would I want to do cloud management? And the idea here is to take everything that's popping up on the screen now that goes into deploying a new network and then making it easier, either getting rid of some of those steps or making those steps easier to do. So you're spending less money buying things to set up the network, and you're spending less time configuring and monitoring and keeping an eye on your network. So saving you money upfront and saving you time, which is also money as things go forward. So basically the idea here is you have one URL you go to, nebula.zyxel.com. All of your customers can be found there and all of their different networks can be found there. So you've got a single place to go where you can manage all of your customers and all of their devices. And we've created it and put it into a very easy, simple to use interface, making it really easy for you to jump between customers, jump between sites, and find what you need to change and configure easily. So one of the cool things we can do here with Nebula is we can set up without unboxing. At any point, you can go to nebula.zyxel.com and start setting up a new customer and a new site. If you have no product selected, there are still some things you can configure in advance. Once you do get the products in hand, all you need to do is use our mobile app, scan the QR code that's on the outside of most boxes, and assign it to a customer on the site. Once you have done that, you can begin in full vigor to start configuring everything. And then just once you get around to it, ship the product out to the customer location, plug it in. And once you do, it will reach out to the network, see you want to manage it in the cloud, and it will automatically download its configuration from that. There is nothing you need to do directly on the hardware itself. So you don't need to go in and tell it it's going to be cloud managed. You don't need to point it at a server anywhere. It just works. So we've got a number of tools to make it easy for you to set up your network. When you're setting up a new network, we have a number of steps in a wizard to help you do the setup and get it done. We give you the ability to copy certain settings from existing customers or sites you've already set up. So you can get a new network up and running literally in just a couple of minutes. So to use Nebula, all you need is a web browser and our Nebula compatible hardware. There's no additional hardware that needs to be purchased. There's no cloud keys. There's no CNA devices. There's nothing like that. There's no additional software. So you don't need to go and install software on a machine somewhere. You don't need to set up a server. It just works. The agent that connects to the cloud is built into our Nebula compatible hardware. And then everything itself is hosted in our cloud for you. Yeah, so you just go to you open up a web browser and there you go. So we do offer some features here to talk about here. We do have built-in user management. So Nebula has a cloud hosted database that you can use for user authentication. So you can use that in conjunction with things like MAC filtering, 802.1x authentication, either at the switch level or as part of WPA2 or 3 enterprise on your access points, guest access, etc. All of our access points have captive portal built in at the access point level. So you can do guest networks on your access points, regardless of what's going on at the gateway. So it's hosted by the access point itself, and most of our access points even have the ability to do their own NAT on a per SSID basis. So you can put guest users on their own complete subnet. We also have a feature called Layer 2 isolation, or as it's called here on the slide, auto guest protection. So even if you don't have VLAN aware switches on your network or VLAN aware gateways, you can still isolate those guest users. As I mentioned, we have the ability to put them on their own NAT on a different subnet. We also have the ability to block them from sending packets to any devices on the network other than those you whitelist. So even without a VLAN, you can isolate them and prevent them from accessing any local network resources. All configuration and all firmware updates are done over the air through the Nebula cloud. So again, nothing you have to go on site for, nothing you need to directly access the device to be able to do. Our access points have a what we call single click wireless mesh. Basically, you enable mesh and it just works. Turn it on. Devices that do not, or excuse me, access points that do not have a working Ethernet connection back to the network will automatically find other nodes that do and create a mesh to be able to find those nodes. And of course, enterprise security is built in by default on our access points. Moving over to switches, we have the ability to virtually switch stack our switches in the Nebula interface, so you can configure ports across multiple switches at the same time. We make it very easy by looking at our graphic there to be able to tell which ports currently have devices plugged in, what speed those devices are connected at, and whether or not they're using PoE to power those devices. We also have a real-time graphing here, port utilization, PoE utilization, and the ability to look at traffic over time. We've got some other stuff here, an ability to do, port-based VLANs. We also have the ability to do VLANs based on OID. So you can do it based on MAC address. So if you know your vendor of your IP phone, you can put in the first 6 digits of the MAC address, which identifies that vendor, and we can automatically put those phones onto a specific VLAN once you plug them into a switch. And of course, we have standard features like loop guard, DHCP guard, etc. So basically everything I've talked about up to this point, or at least most of it, is free. So Nebula is free. It does not require a license to use it. So the free version of Nebula, excuse me, gives you access to manage an unlimited number of customers, an unlimited number of sites, and an unlimited number of devices. Most of our competition out there requires you to have a license, or if they do offer a free tier, it's usually pretty limited as to what it has access to. Ours does not. Now, one area where we get some questions is which hardware is compatible with Nebula. So when we started Nebula back in the day, we copied the Cisco Meraki route where there is equipment that works traditionally and equipment that works in the cloud, but not both. We have long gotten away from that. So most of our products now are what we call Nebula Flex. So when you're looking at our price list and you see the terms Nebula Flex, that's letting you know that's a product that can be managed with the Nebula Cloud, or it can still be used in the standard way of doing it. The old way of directly accessing the device via a GUI or SSH or whatever it happens to be. And it's really easy to put a device and switch them between modes. So by default, out of the box, your product is going to be in standalone mode. Once you have scanned that QR code and assigned it to a site in the cloud, that device will then automatically reboot itself into cloud management mode and download the configuration from the cloud. If at any point you want to convert this back to a standalone device, maybe you're taking it out from one customer and moving it over to a different customer, or for whatever reason you're not using the cloud, it's really easy. You go into the Nebula Cloud, you remove the device from your inventory, and it will automatically detect that, switch it back over to standalone mode and factory default itself. So really easy to switch back and forth. Now with Nebula, we do have some optional licenses which unlock additional features. So I do want to talk about that list a little bit here. So just to begin with, we have what we call Base Pack. So Base Pack is the free version of Nebula. So that is the default status of any new organization you set up. You can upgrade those organizations to what we call Plus Pack and Pro Pack. So the vast majority of our customers are using the free version of Nebula, with the second most popular being Pro Pack, and we do have a small number of people using Plus Pack. So Pro Pack is what we've had since the launch back in 2016. It unlocks a lot of additional features, and I do have some slides where we'll go more in depth, but mostly aimed at troubleshooting tools, log retentions, things like that. And then Plus Pack was something we launched just a few years ago to compete with some of the lower end new cloud solutions that were popping up, which were a lot less feature oriented than what we had. So we wanted to create something that goes up against those. So it's basically unlocking some additional logging, just not as much as in Pro, giving you access to email alerts, things like that. So for Plus and Pro Pack, these are licenses that are applied on a per device basis. So the way it works in Nebula is you have what are called organizations. So an organization is usually going to be one of your customers. So usually you will have each customer set up as their own organization. So in order to upgrade an organization to Plus or Pro Pack, each device in that organization needs to have a valid active Plus or Pro Pack license. So basically, you're converting the entire organization to Plus or Pro Pack, and the way you do that is by having a license at that level for each device in that organization. Now, we also have another license called an MSP Pack license. This is a user-based license. So this is a license that unlocks additional management features for a user. So that user that gets this license has access to these additional features. So in most of your MSP type scenarios, your master user, your head user will have the MSP pack, and then the rest of your users will not. Some cases you may have a second or third user using the MSP pack, but it unlocks features for the user, where Plus and Pro Pack unlock features for an organization. It's the best way to keep that in mind. So when it comes to our products, this is our breakdown. Might be a few newer products missing from here, but this is basically a breakdown of what is Nebula Flex and what is Nebula Flex Pro. So Nebula Flex Pro is not to be confused with Nebula Pro Pack. Nebula Flex Pro, you will see that on our price list, is just a Nebula Flex device, which comes bundled with a 1-year Pro Pack license. So for instance, here, all of our access points that start with NWA are Nebula Flex. All of our access points that start with the letter W are Nebula Flex Pro, with the primary difference there just being the availability of the ProPack license being bundled with it. You can always buy the license for the standard NWAs. They just don't come with 1 year out of the box. Same goes with our switches here. The 1920, 1915, 1930 series are Nebula Flex. The 2220 series, 1350, 3800 series are Nebula Flex Pro. And again, all that means is these models come with a 1 year ProPack license bundled with them. You don't have to use that license. It's just there if you're going to be using it. Where it gets a little bit tricky here is on our USG Flex and our ATP series products. So basically the USG Flex products, USG Flex H, whatever we're talking about here, they are sold in two versions. They are sold as a hardware-only SKU, and they are sold as a bundled SKU, which comes bundled with 1 year of licensing for UTM security services. So when you buy the bundled versions, or just in general, when you buy one of our security routers that includes security licenses, they will also include 1 year of ProPack with them. So now comes the really boring part, where we go through some of the differences here between the different modes. So to start with, everything I talk about here is available in the free version of Nebula, and anything that's part of the free version of Nebula is also included with Plus or ProPack. So unlimited number of devices, customers, sites, access to location maps, the ability to import a floor plan and place devices on that floor plan. All of those features are included in all versions. That zero-touch auto deployment, firmware updates over the air, that's all available on the free version of Nebula. Access to our iOS and Android app, that's all part of the free version of Nebula. Most of your core networking functions on all of our devices, that's all configurable in the core version of Nebula or base pack. Access to MAC filtering, 802.1x authentication, captive portal, all of that is available in the base pack. So now I want to start talking about some of the differences. So one of the main areas where we find differences is when it comes to log information. The free version of Nebula keeps just 24 hours worth of logs stored in the cloud. Now, we do support a syslog server, so you can always export all of your logs to your own syslog server if you need more than 24 hours of log storage. If you upgrade to Plus Pack, we will keep a week's worth of your logs in the cloud for you, and Pro Pack gets a year's worth of logs. Another area where there's some differences are the number of admin accounts per organization. So each organization or customer that you are managing has its own limit of admin accounts. So with the free version of Nebula, you get 5 admin accounts per organization. And again, you can manage multiple organizations from one user account. Plus Pack upgrades that to 8. Pro Pack gives you an unlimited number of admin accounts. For our cloud authentication database, the free version of Nebula gives you 50 entries, Plus Pack gives you 100 entries, and Pro Pack gives you an unlimited number of entries. Now, again, for most features that use user authentication, we offer this cloud-hosted database for you to use, but you can always still use your own Radius server. So if you'd rather do it the traditional way where you maintain your own Radius server, you can do that, and then you don't have to worry about this limitation on the number of entries. So some features now that we'll talk about that are only available in Plus and Pro. Advanced firmware scheduling. So the the free pack or base pack version of Nebula, you can set up firmware scheduling for your firmware updates. But with Plus and Pro, we give you more options. We give you the ability to set up different schedules based on the type of device. We give you also the ability to set up schedules for individual devices in that customer's network. We give you advanced reporting features, such as the ability to automatically generate certain reports and automatically email them either to yourself or your customers. If you are having those reports emailed to your customers, we have it set up so you can add your own logo to those reports, so they see your logo when they open those up. Give me just a second. We also have a cool thing called automatic network topology view, which basically automatically maps out for you all of the products that are, or all the devices that are on your network. shows you which devices are connected to which other devices. And then by clicking on the device in that view, you can see certain settings and configuration options for each device. So it's really handy for troubleshooting things on a network, or for just trying to remember how you set things up if it's been a while since you've had to access that customer's network. Email alerts is something that's required, and push notifications requires Plus or Pro Pack or the MSP pack. And then Wi-Fi vouchers. So Wi-Fi vouchers are a specific type of captive portal guest access. If you want to use vouchers, that does require Plus or Pro Pack. Free version of Nebula, though, still gives you access to captive portal with a terms of service agreement login, with redirection to a third-party landing page, ability to log in using Facebook, ability to log in using usernames and passwords. So it's just a few extra options that you get for the captive portal with Plus and Pro Pack. And then everything else I talk about here requires Pro Pack. So user audit and change logs, those are included with Pro Pack. The ability to synchronize configurations across multiple sites or clone existing sites is something that's part of Pro Pack. The ability to back up and restore switch configurations is part of Pro Pack. The ability to open a ticket directly with our headquarters in Taiwan is part of Pro Pack. Advanced AAA features. So again, some more advanced stuff for more advanced hotspot type services. Those require Pro Pack. Access to advanced Wi-Fi controls, including artificial intelligence, and the ability for us to automatically change settings based on user feedback. That's something that's part of Pro Pack. We have something similar to that for the switches, for those of you doing IPTV streaming, so that's part of Pro Pack. And the ability to do packet captures through a USG Flex through the cloud is something that requires Pro Pack. So this is just summarizing a lot of what was on the list. These are things that are included with Pro Pack here. I'm just going to skip through those. We talked about most of these. So here's just visually, this is what that automatic topology view looks like. So you can click on any of these devices, and if they're and see status and some details on them. If they're a Nebula managed device, you will also get access directly to some configuration options or the ability to take you over to the configuration page. One cool feature that comes with Pro Pack is dynamic pre-shared key. So this allows you to use one SSID for all of your wireless users and give each of them their own unique pre-shared key. So you aren't sharing one pre-shared key with everybody. And it allows you basically when you log in, you type in your pre-shared key just like you normally would, and it will, based on that pre-shared key, know which VLAN to place that user on. So it's an easier way to do what you normally would do using WPA Enterprise or 802.1x authentication without the hassle of setting up 802.1x authentication, loading, certificates on the client devices, etc. And as mentioned before, we do offer AI and machine learning for wireless as part of Pro Pack. On the switch side of things, it gives us access to that automatic voice VLAN functionality. So some of the other features here to go through. Some extra features that we have here. If you're buying the 1350 series of switches, those are switches that were specifically made for IP cameras, and they've got some extra features that do require Pro Pack to use those features in the cloud. So that includes the ability to monitor connected devices. If those connected devices become unresponsive, we can automatically, for instance, power cycle using PoE those devices to reboot them and get them back online. So that's something that can automatically be done. On the security side of things here, ProPack gives you what's called collaborative detection and response, CDR. So that allows basically the access points to be able to tunnel back to the gateway and to coordinate with the gateway for certain types of threats and attacks to help isolate those wireless users and protect that. Nebula does also integrate with our SecuReporter, our reporting software for our security appliances, and makes it really easy to jump back and forth between Nebula management and the SecuReporter reporting tools. Another optional license we have here is something called Secure Wi-Fi. And so secure Wi-Fi allows you to take an access point and turn it into a remote VPN appliance. So you can take that access point, ship it out to your customer, they plug it into their existing home router, and then they can connect to a specific SSID that will broadcast. And when you connect to that SSID, it creates a VPN tunnel essentially back to the corporate office for VPN access. So that way, instead of needing to configure individual computers and track them, you can just use this access point as a VPN appliance. Because it is an access point and not a router, um, it works just perfectly fine behind any existing home router that you may have. And it uses 802.1x authentication and dual factor or two-factor authentication to make sure only authorized users connect to that special SSID. Now, one of the main questions we get has to do with, how Nebula works, and specifically how it works in relationship to things like PCI or HIPAA. So a key thing here when it comes to Nebula is the cloud-hosted part here is only for management and configuration. None of your users' data is traveling and hitting our cloud. So traffic that should be on the LAN stays on the LAN. Traffic that goes out to the internet goes directly out to the internet. It is not funneled through our cloud. So because of that, Nebula can absolutely be used as part of a PCI compatible network deployment and can also be used as part of a HIPAA compatible network. Some other things here is we are hosted on Amazon AWS. This is not our own home built cloud. We partnered with Amazon for this to make sure we've got the most reliable, scalable solution that's available out there for you. Another cool thing here, at least I think, is for the cloud and communication with the cloud, we did not build our own in-house security protocols to be able to handle that traffic. Instead, we use an industry standard called netconf to automatically encrypt and handle that management traffic. So you don't have to worry about, us, what we've done in-house. There's no secrecy here. It's an industry standard that's out there called netconf that we use. So the quick summary here, Nebula itself, it's easy to set up. It's easy to set up your customers. It's easy to convert them over to Nebula. Everything scales. So it simplifies your time. It makes your life easier, and it is extremely affordable. The base version is free. Pro Pack is going to cost you roughly $30 to $35 per device to use Pro Pack. So even that's, very affordable if you compare us to something like Meraki, where you're looking at close to $150 per device to be able to do some of those features. So if you're interested in Nebula, we have a live demo. You can simply go to nebula.zyxel.com, and where you log in, there will be an option to go to a demo site. So we've got a real demo site, actually multiple sites set up. So you can go around and poke around with the Nebula interface. If you are one of our partner program members, so you're a reseller that has joined our partner program, reach out to your salesperson and we'll be happy to hook you up with a 60-day demo kit that you can test out in your own lab. And with that, guys, that is the end of today's webinar. So again, if you have questions, send them in using the Q&A part there. I don't have any questions pending. I do want to highlight here while we wait. Almost all of our webinars are recorded and we do upload them to YouTube. So if there's a webinar you missed or you had to leave early or you want to share with one of your coworkers, you can find it on YouTube. Since Zyxel is a global company and we have a lot of different regional accounts, the US channel on YouTube is called Zyxel America channel, all one word. So once you find that, that's where you'll find our US webinars. You'll also find things like success stories, case studies, best practices videos, product launch videos, etc. And of course, you can always reach out and connect with us on LinkedIn. So again, there we are, Zyxel US channel. Okay, I'm seeing people dropping off. I have no questions coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope I see you at one of our future webinars.